The year is 1954. Teenagers wear poodle skirts and leather jackets, and Congress passes legislation establishing the Atomic Energy Commission to develop nuclear power and other peaceful uses of atomic energy, such as nuclear medicine. It also recognizes the need to protect the public from the hazards of this industry. 2 decades pass. It's now 1974. The Camaro rules the road, and Congress establishes the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, to oversee the nuclear industry, taking over regulation formerly carried out by the Atomic Energy Commission. Developmental activities are carried out by what is now the Department of Energy. The NRC is given one primary mission: to protect the American people and their environment. It is a watchdog government agency, much like the Federal Aviation Administration, neither for nor against nuclear energy, and has nothing to do with the military's use of nuclear weapons. That job lies with the Energy and Defense Departments. The NRC's focus is on safety. The NRC begins operations in January 1975. With several dozen nuclear power plants already in operation around the country, the new agency begins licensing more nuclear plants and users of nuclear materials. The year is 1979. The movie, The China Syndrome, a fictional account of a nuclear disaster, is a box office smash. And ironically, 2 weeks after the movie's release, America's nuclear industry experiences its first and only major power reactor accident at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. The good news is that the plant's safety systems work. Virtually all the radioactivity remains inside the plant, and no one is hurt, although public anxiety is raised. Requirements are put in place to correct deficiencies and improve plant safety. The NRC puts inspectors at every operating commercial nuclear plant to keep a daily watch and begin collecting operating data from each plant. It also steps up operator training and emergency planning. There has not been another nuclear power plant accident in the United States since then. Every day, well over 3,500 dedicated NRC employees in offices across the country make sure the public and the people working in the U.S. nuclear industry are safe from the hazards of radiation. And on the international scene, NRC works to help ensure nuclear safety throughout the world.
I think we have a very important job at the NRC. Our job is to protect the public health and safety.
Radiation, discovered in the closing years of the 19th century, is useful in many ways, but it can also be dangerous if not used carefully. That's why here in the United States, the NRC has developed a system that involves research, rules, and regulations, licensing, inspection, enforcement, emergency preparedness, and security. Together, these allow the safe uses of radioactive material, such as to protect food and blood supplies, kill cancer, make roads and buildings safer, light emergency exits, and warn of fires inside homes and offices. The NRC has its own research experts to analyze information to resolve nuclear safety and security concerns, support regulatory decisions, and anticipate and assess evolving technical issues. The NRC conducts research through government laboratories, universities, and other U.S. research institutions. The international community is involved as well in sharing the latest scientific knowledge. Researchers study what's gone right and what's gone wrong over the years, using tools like risk analyses and computer simulations.
We try to simulate fires in nuclear power plants, and the key is making sure that the simulations are as accurate as possible. We take lots of measurements and compare the simulations against those measurements to make sure that we're accurately representing what actually is happening in a fire in a nuclear power plant.
The NRC establishes rules and regulations that must be followed by nuclear plants and other users of nuclear materials. Medical workers and smoke detector manufacturers that use nuclear materials have to follow the rules too. One important rule sets limits for radiation exposures.
We want to make sure that people handle radioactive material, such as nuclear power plant operators, such as nurses and doctors, that they are actively monitored, that the area around their workplace, it's surveyed and monitored on a regular basis.
When it comes to power plants, the NRC requires intense training and testing for plant operators to obtain a license. Another rule requires emergency plans around each nuclear power plant in the unlikely event of a serious accident. There are also rules governing how nuclear waste and other radioactive materials are to be stored and safely transported through public areas. Others deal with the security of nuclear facilities and materials.
I think a good example of how NRC does rulemaking is the recent revision of our regulations on transportation. We had experts come to talk to the public. We had meetings in the daytime, meetings in the evening to make sure we could get to everybody that we could, to get their comments and their input on what makes a good regulation for transporting high-level radioactive waste.
When new regulations are proposed or old ones changed, the public is given numerous opportunities to participate. It is all part of the agency's openness policy, involving the public in NRC decision-making in order to retain the public's confidence in the NRC. Hospitals and manufacturers that use nuclear materials require a license from either the NRC or certain states called agreement states that have been given authority by the NRC. More than 20,000 licenses have been issued by NRC and agreement states for using nuclear materials in medicine, research, and industry. To build and operate a nuclear plant in the U.S., a company must obtain a license from the NRC. The rigorous and thorough license application review process includes safety evaluations, environmental impact assessments, security plans, and public hearings. Companies must meet requirements for construction and operation at the outset, and the NRC will not license a plant without giving the public an opportunity to participate in the process.
We have a checklist of items that we will inspect or verify once construction of the facility is completed, such that we can assure ourselves that the design, technical design that we reviewed well before construction is in fact the design that was built on that site.
So far, the NRC has licensed 104 nuclear power plants that provide about 20% of the nation's electricity. It has also licensed temporary storage facilities for nuclear waste, most of which are at nuclear plants.